I don't know. That makes me feel good that I was the guy that I wanted to be, and not somebody that. I mean, not that I can be an asshole sometimes, just like anybody else, but I always tried not to, if I didn't have to. But the cowboy in me, if they cross me, I'd damn sure let them have it. But
Yeah, yeah, that's it's just one of those things. Those certain time lines of work that just they attract a certain type of people, and and they just happen to be a little rough around the edges.
but I've punched cows with guys that were not much better.
Right, and it's the same type of deal. It just yeah, it's a different line of work, different type of people, and it just it's not for the faint of heart. Either one of them, it's a
Oh,
different
absolutely
like
not.
it's just a different line of work. Um,
It's a different,
but
it's a different line of work, that's for sure.
yeah, so how old are you?
I'm 38. I'll be
Okay,
39 in about a month.
okay, so you're a couple years older than me, not too much. I just turned 36, but I always say I don't look a day over 73, so I'm doing well.
Yeah,
Uh,
I like that because like when I when I turned 25, my brother and a couple of my buddies took me out, for my birthday, and they was, you feel like a quarter century old. I said, I still feel 93, and I don't feel a day younger than 93. I'll promise you right now. But at the time, I was working for Jeff Williams over here at Post, and I don't know if you've ever heard of Jeff, but he's probably one of the best 2-year-old guys that's ever bridled one. He's
I've heard the name. Yeah, I don't know him by any means, but I've heard the name.
Western Horseman's done a bunch of stuff on him because he's always big. He's big about helping young men get started and learning how to be a horseman and stuff. And he's got some guys that have learned under him, and he started out that have gone on to do, I mean, great stuff. Like, I mean, Clay Johnson's probably the biggest one, and he's won everything there is to win in the NCHA. And I'm going to tell you what, though, if you need somebody cowboy, that guy, he's dang sure it. He's cowboy through and through.
Yeah,
He's a really really good friend of mine, and you know one of my heroes to boot. And and when I was working for Jeff, hell, we'd have 30 head of 2-year-olds, and then there's liable to be some 4 and 5-year-olds and some 6 and 7-year-olds. I mean, there's just a little bit of everything around there. But we started a ton of colts, and man, you get to starting colts, and you're starting that many. And there was just two of us there. It was me and a guy named Braden Bratcher. He got killed in a motorcycle wreck a couple of years ago, and but me and Braden, man, we peeled. Gosh damn, we peeled broncs all day, every day. It seemed like for a long time, and that shit takes a toll on your body. Of course, we weren't only just starting 2-year-olds. We day work for every rancher in West Texas pretty much. So we'd take a string of 2-year-olds, just as many as we could fit in the trailer, and if we didn't get to ride them, the ones we didn't ride the day we was doing branding or weaning or chipping or whatever we was doing, we got done in the evenings. We'd ride them wherever we was at. Everybody else would be laid up in the bunkhouse, and we'd be trotting colts in circles around the mesquite bush somewhere. But
yeah. So I take it you guys are probably your classic like puncher types out there, tie hard,
oh yeah,
that brush country. That's kind of the typical. It seems like.
yeah. I mean, and there's places where I I I don't tie on just because it is so brushy and rougher country and stuff. I mean, you kind of got to know where you're at. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
out here where I'm at, it's mainly flat. I mean, you can watch your damn dog run away for 3, 4, maybe 5 days.
Good old
It's the
high
flat.
plains, huh?
Yeah. But, and I don't mind tying on out here, but, I mean, it just kind of depends. If I'm riding the bronc or something, I might decide I'm going to pull that horn knot off and just stick it in my leggings pocket until we get a little further down the road. But
Yeah.
most of the
What's the
time,
elevation over there, by the way?
oh, we're
'Cause
probably 5,000 feet right here, four or
okay,
five
yeah. So
thousand
you're
feet.
you're sure enough high plains.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's you're higher than we are right here. I mean, I think going up the pass out of the valley, we're at 58, and I think we're about 48 here at the valley floor. So
Right.
yeah, I mean yeah, and like you said, it's just flat as can be. That's about how where I grew up. It was 30, 36, 3,700 feet, but yeah, just flat, flat, flat.
Yeah, it's super flat and just, I mean, and I like this country. I mean, I grew up here. You know, when I was a kid, my dad worked for Spades, and we lived on the Muleshoe Ranch. And I mean, I've just kind of grown up doing this, and I don't know. I guess it just ruined me when I was 4 or 5 years old, going with my dad every day. You know,
Mm-hmm.
my mom taught me as a fifth grader, and she was like, "You need to dedicate yourself to this little bit, so you can get an education." And I said, "I've got enough education to do what I want to do."
Yeah.
I was already looking for an out. That schooling just never did agree with me.
So you did high school and then called it good.
I went to a little bit of college.
Okay.
I mean, I just kind of, I didn't really want to go. I didn't just, have a craving just to go to college for 4 years or longer. Really, when I graduated, as soon as I graduated, I moved to Wyoming and worked on ranch there between Moorcroft and Sundance, and that was really cool experience. I loved it up there in Wyoming. It was just stinking cool, and the Black Hills just.
Wyoming's awesome. I had a good friend that I went to college with was from Sundance. She actually moved down to Guyman area.
Yeah, I mean,
Guyman,
what's her name?
Oklahoma. Sarah Lambert was what I knew her as. She's Sarah Meese now, married Preston Meese. I don't know if you know him.
I don't know, Preston.
He's a cowhand leather worker. But yeah, they're down in the Guyman area. But she was from Sundance, Wyoming. She's a hell of a nice gal. I think
Yeah,
they're still down there.
I worked for the Hadleys over there, and their daughter Shiloh. I was wondering if it might have been Shiloh, because she lives down around here somewhere now. I think she lives down in Texas though.
Yeah, there's and you said the Black Hills, so that's up there by South Dakota, Nebraska.
Yeah,
line,
we weren't far from
right
South
in there.
Dakota. We were oh, I don't know. We weren't far from South Dakota for where we were at. It was. I would say it was cool. I mean, that's the first time in my life I'd come out of the mountains with some cows and get down into one of them meadows, and the grass was, I couldn't see my stirrups anymore because the grass was tall. I didn't know what that was all about. It scared me to death.
Oh, I know it. When I was up in Montana too, I was riding fence on one of our lease pastures over in the Bear Paws, and same thing. Just like my boots were wet, and I was not on the ground at all that day, and it was weird. Fucking
Hadn't
weird.
crossed the creek yet.
Yeah, I was like, this ain't buffalo grass, fellers. I mean, this is fucking weird.
So the old grandma grass we got down here, it don't get that tall. I don't care how much rain you get.
Yeah, that buffalo grass, on a good year, it might get 6 inches tall, but
Yeah.
but shit, that buffalo grass will carry just about anything you want on a good year, but it ain't gonna
Oh yeah,
hit
you
your
can't hardly
knees.
beat it. You can't hardly beat it, but it
Yeah.
won't get very tall. I was the same way, you know. And heck, this year I was we got all that rain this summer, and hell, I quit feeding in May, and I'd fed for shit a year and a half. I'd not quit feeding and caking my cows, but because we just didn't have the grass, and I was haying and everything else. I mean, all through the summer I was haying last year, and
Mm.
and this year we started getting some rain, and we started growing some grass. And my boss called me and he goes, "We need to order feed." And I said, "No, I hadn't been feeding in about a month." And he was like, "Why not?" And I said, "Well, hell, we got green grass everywhere. We don't need to feed. Cows look great. They're
Hell
picking up,
yeah.
I mean." And I said, "There ain't no need in wasting money, burning. That doesn't make much financial sense to me to go keep feeding cows when we've got plenty of grass." And he's like, "Man, I like the way you think. Keep it up." And so that's what I did. And I just started back November 1. I started feeding my cows again, and I mean, we still got tons of grass, but it's just it's drying out and
Oh yeah.
not as
Gotta
much
have a
to
little
it.
protein. Yeah.
But I mean, like hell, this Dodge pickup I drive, but this summer, I mean, and still now, like going down a bunch of my 2-track roads, it's tall as the hood. Some of that grass is, and I'm like, gosh dang, that is just crazy. I can't believe that we've still got this much grass. This is the most grass I've seen around here, and I can't even remember when.
Makes a guy want to take a bush hog down all your 2-tracks just to make sure you don't ignite it.
Well, that ain't no kidding. That's I, I deleted this pickup here a while back, and I'm a big fan of doing that because that exhaust gets so dadgum hot on these pickups.
Oh
I
man.
don't even want to risk getting a fire started from that crap. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Do
I mean,
you guys delete those after, like, once your warranty's up, you go ahead and delete it, or?
I did on this one. But this pickup that I'm driving now, my ranch pickup, it was we bought it with 96,000 miles on it, and we deleted it, and I think it had 103,000 on it.
Okay.
So I mean,
Well,
yeah, I was just out of warranty, which is I'm kind of glad. I wanted to delete it as soon as I got it, but I'm glad we didn't, because I had 98. My warranty went out at 100,000 miles. I had 98,982 miles, and the transmission went out on this thing.
oh shit. That's an expensive little piece to be covered by warranty, man.
Yeah, I was sure glad that warranty covered it, because I was not wanting to have to pay for that, or for the ranch to have to pay for it anyway. Because
Yeah. Now,
yeah,
is that a Allison transmission, or?
yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, age-old question that plagues all of us cowhands. What's the best all-around ranch rig?
man, the best one I've ever had was it's in the shop right now, and it was mine until I got this pickup, and it's a '02 6-speed Cummins extended
Okay.
cab, long bed, 4-wheel drive,
So, Gen 2,
Gen 2.
20, 24 valve,
Yeah, 24 valve, 6-speed
5.9.
manual,
Yeah.
5.9.
That's a
Yeah,
pretty good one. I would say if you're pulling a trailer, that's a good one. If you're not pulling a trailer all the time, but just for like a get around ranch rig, like a early '90s F250
yeah.
with
I,
a manual.
man, I had I've got another pickup that I used to drive right here that I really like just for my run around, like going and fixing some fence or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it was an '05 Chevy 5-speed manual with the 6.0 in it, and
Okay, yeah,
that thing was it was light enough. It didn't get. I mean, hell, you could go through all this sand and not really have to worry about it. I mean, but like if you ever had a trailer on it, it sucked because it just didn't have any power. And
yeah.
like we've got a 32-foot easily, like I used to put out bulls, and and when we're weaning up all my
That's
packers that I
a
was just hitting.
heavy fucking trailer.
Oh yeah,
32-foot easily.
yeah. I mean, and it's a '95 model, and my boss had been wanting one forever, and we didn't have a big trailer, and we'd have to piss ant bulls around in my little 16-foot half top, and we
Mm-hmm.
had another old trailer that was just falling apart, and I found that trailer, and he pulled the trigger on it finally and bought it, and I was so happy, and I've not regretted getting that trailer. Oh damn, I love that trailer. It's so handy, but it is
Um,
way
what's
heavy.
those? What is those? That it's a newer brand. It's like a.
The Hughes?
They're all Hughes. Yeah, the black half top. Those are. Oh, I last time I looked at one of those just like to daydream list. I was like, holy fuck, those things are expensive. But
Oh, they are.
man, they're nice. Like they
They
have got all the bells and whistles.
everything you could want, and that's what I love about them is guys that I mean those guys like the guys that design those huge trailers and those like they've done this for a living. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
and the Easley guys have too, and the Reyes guys like Easley,
Yeah.
Hughes, Reyes, they're all really good because those guys have done this for a living, and they know what the cowboy needs, you
Yeah.
know. And
What like everything it's I was just and I haven't used them much, but I was just kind of looking through one and just like if something turned back on you and you needed the escape gate, like right where you would reach is where the handle is.
yeah,
It's like everything is just right where it's supposed to be. It's amazing.
somebody's had their
There
ass run
was
over before.
there was some like can you imagine like the meeting like everybody just sit I'm just picturing just like spitters and smoke hanging in the air and it's like no motherfucker this needs to swing this way instead of that way
Yeah.
and just a cuss and that's what I'm picturing when they designed that trailer.
Gosh damn, why would you want it to do that? It needs to do this.
Yeah, exactly. And there's just like piles of beer cans, spitters, blue
Yeah.
smoke hanging in the air. Like that.
Yeah.
That's what I'm picturing when they're designing that. Because
it's a pile of
just
Keystone Light cans and Marlboro butts. Just
right. Because when every time I've been around those trailers, just like stepping through them, I was like, man, they got this one right.
Yeah, they've done it right. And like I said, that 32-foot we got, like the only thing I would change about that trailer is it doesn't have the full escape door. It's
Mm-hmm.
just the half escape door, so it's right at the brush rail there. And
Yeah.
that's the only thing I don't like about it. And the only reason I don't like it doesn't really bother me because I'm not going to be getting up in there with anything really anyway. But like when I'm loading on my Brandon stuff, like it would be super handy just to have that full gate where I could just throw my Brandon pot and my propane bottles and stuff like that all up in there. But I mean,
Yeah. It's but they basically took the Easley and the Reyes and then put a bunch of bells and whistles. Like they took the best of both worlds and then added a few extra things that every cowboy has always said they wanted.
yes,
And that's the Hughes trailer. It's fucking wild. They did it right though. I mean, but
absolutely.
you're gonna pay for it.
Oh
they're,
yeah,
they're not gonna,
they're not.
they don't
giving
give
them
that away for
that's
free.
sure. No,
It's
no.
no, it's amazing though that like just the technology that's come up over and not even so much technology on that, but just like maybe say Bud Williams just taking what you have and be like, hey, instead of like rebuilding your facility, maybe put a gate here or close this part up, just doing a few things to make cattle flow better. And it's amazing how it's all changed in the last 100 years.
Oh man, it's amazing how much it's changed in the last 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just it's amazing.
Well, I was talking to Boots earlier today, and Boots is a perfect example because he
Oh yeah,
started punching cows like in that weird transition period from open range to like modern day trucking, like where they were still pushing cattle to the railroad, but they were only about 10, 15 years out from having a pickup and trailer.
Yes, sir.
And but they were only 10, 15 years out from, like Arizona not being a state either. So it's
A lot
and
changed
so
in a short period of
so
time there.
so like it was still like a very much kind of a Wild West feel to it, but yeah, and it's wild how much things have changed, from when he started. And then when he was talking about this weekend when he's in Amarillo, and he was like giving a talk on, as he said, the old timey ranching, and then he had people coming up to him and saying they'd listened to him on the podcast, and so it's just weird. He's going to give a talk about old school ranching, and then he's got
Yeah,
people that
on a
have
podcast.
heard of him because of the
A
most
podcast.
modern technology there is. So
Yeah,
it's weird.
and I wish my great uncle was still alive. Uh, man, Vernon Miller he was my great uncle, and that guy was. I mean, he left home at 13 years old because my great granddad, he ran a few cows, but he farmed mainly, and during the Depression they moved from down around Ranger, I guess it was right before the Depression, really up in the 20s, because my granddad was born in 32 and he was born over there at Welch, where I grew up, which is southwest of Lubbock, about an hour. And I mean, listening when I would listen to Vernon talk about stuff, he left home at 13 years old, and one of the funniest things he ever told me was, don't if somebody tells you smoking's bad for you, don't believe them, because they're just trying to sell you something. Because he'd been smoking since he's 8 years old and he never had a problem. So
my grandpa LP was the same way. He never, I don't know if I ever heard him talk bad about somebody telling you to quit smoking, but he was the same way. He started smoking when he was like, I don't know, 11 or 12 or some shit like that. And he died, let's see, I was in college. I think he was 76 or something. No, he was a little older than that, because he got a DUI when he was 76. He's yeah, he I'll come back to that little bit, but he
do the gin pasty on that and circle back.
yeah, we'll do a good circle back on that one, because it's a good one. But he when he died, so like shortly after that he got his DUI. They, of course, they took his license and everything, and but he was kind of like early onset, early stages of dementia when that happened, and then when he couldn't go drive down to the mailbox or drive to town and and whatever, and just kind of piddle around, that's when his mind really kind of went. But
Yeah, that's super hard on those guys.
yeah, but when he died of colon cancer, I believe, and he had like a touch of emphysema in his lungs, but no lung cancer, no nothing. He smoked every day since he was 13, and I think he had to have been in his 80s when he died, but yeah, like no lung cancer. And he was like pack a day, 2 packs a day, something like that.
Yeah, those guys, they're tough for the wood hauler's ass.
Yeah, so yeah, he was going to town for I think groceries, cigarettes, and booze, kind of your normal deal. He drank a lot of whiskey, but it was for medicinal purposes only. Is what he told everybody. And
Just regular old cowboy shit.
yeah, he ran into the back of a maintainer. Um, and he must have been pretty feeling pretty good. But he maintained until the day he died that cop was trying to frame him, and they had poured the vodka in the floor of that car to frame him.
Yeah.
Which I don't think he was drinking the vodka at the time. I think the bottle just broke, but I don't know. I wasn't there. It was his story. I'll let him tell it how
Yeah.
how he told it.
That's we're, we're not here to judge the story. We're just
Yeah, I was there for the ride. And that was it. It was
yeah,
a good story as far as I was concerned.
absolutely. Absolutely.
But
Yeah.
yeah, those old timers were something else. So Grandpa Mac, he was telling me about working during the Dust Bowl, and he moved out to Western Colorado for a little while and picked peaches, but did a lot of farming there in southeast Colorado, southwest Kansas, in the middle of the Dust Bowl, and oof,
Yeah.
talk about a just depressing existence. God
Oh
damn.
man. Oh, that was the worst. And and Vernon, I was blessed enough to be around him when I was old enough to remember his stories, and
Mm,
you know, and, and at one time I was just day working, and I was training a bunch of horses. I was starting a bunch of 2-year-olds on my own, and after I left Jeff Williams, and I was doing my own thing, and he lived about 2 miles from where I had all my horses at and stuff. And so like I'd catch a colt and I'd trot over there and tie my colt to his tree and drink coffee with him, smoke a few cigarettes, and then I'd go on about my day. And I had a little yellow horse that was a good rascal. Gosh damn, he was a nice little horse. And he's a 3-year-old stud, and he was uh, out of a Hollywood Dunnet mare, and then he was out of a Zanpar Bar stud. And man, this colt just wanted to do shit. Like, gosh damn, he just wanted to be broke. Like from the get go, I didn't start until he's
mm,
3, and he just wanted to do things, wanted to get along, wanted to. He was just a people pleaser. I tried up there one day, and I stepped off of him, tied him to a tree, and we sat on the front porch and smoked a couple cigarettes, drank a few cups of coffee, and I said, "Well, I better get back on it." And still got a pile of horses to ride. I had, I think, 15 2-year-olds that I was riding at the time, so I was like, I got to get going.
it's
So
a pretty good day. Pretty good day.
yeah, yeah. I mean, we would start before the sun came up, and it would be dark before we finished. Like all the older horses I was riding, I had a buddy of mine that had had lights on his arena, and that's the only reason I got to ride any of my older horses, because I'd ride 2-year-olds all day long, and then I'd ride them older horses till 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. And I was young enough at the time that I could go on, 3 or 4 hours of sleep and just keep on getting it, because I was getting to do what I love to do. And
Yeah.
we'd team rope, and I'd work the horse on a cow and stuff until shit, like I said, 1 or 2 in the morning. And I would try to get done just in time where I could go by and stop at the bar on the way back into town and have a couple of beers.
I know the feeling there. Yeah, you time your, you know, you allocate your time accordingly, and
Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
nobody
it's
wants to go to the house and drink alone if you can stop by the bar and drink a few friends before you can
right.
go.
That's right. It's
And then,
funny, I've noticed one of the big differences between like where we grew up and this like the buckaroo culture out west, where it's just so much farther to everything out here. Like Nevada's not a whole lot smaller than Texas size wise. Um, but there's only 17 counties, and there's roughly one town per county. There's a few more towns than that, but there's just not a whole lot of towns in Nevada. And
Yeah.
once you get outside of Reno and Vegas, it gets real desolate real quick. And so a lot of those old boys, they didn't come to town, but like, a couple times a year. And when they'd come to town, they would get loaded. Like, I mean, you're talking like 2 or 3 day benders where, like that book, Last Buckaroo, that Mackie Hedges book. When I was talking to Mackie, he was telling me, one of the stories is that an old boy went to town, had himself a good old time, and woke up on the reservation next to a big old Indian woman, and like Mackie said, the names and everything are changed for security's sake, but that's a true story, and like that's how those old boys roll out here. That they may not get to town for a long time, but when they do, they make they make it count.
Oh yeah, they make every second count.
Yeah,
there was a guy, and I cannot remember his name, and he passed away a few years ago. And when he was living in Fort Worth when he passed away, and he was a black guy, and hell of a cowboy. And when he would do in his later years, he would just do when they drive the Longhorns down the exchange there in Fort Worth and stuff, stockyards, stuff like that. But when he was younger, I mean, he day worked all over Texas and was one hell of a cowboy. And they were telling me a story when I was working over there. I was riding cutting horses over there south of Fort Worth for the Basses, and I was sitting there. We were sitting around at lunch every day because they had at headquarters, they had a full-time cook that cooked lunch for all the cowboys every day. And so we'd all go eat, and we were sitting around there talking, and they got to talking about him. And I said, man, I've heard lots of stories about him, but I've never got to meet him. And I never did get to meet him, unfortunately. But they were telling me a story that they'd been working cattle. They'd been on the wagon up here in the Panhandle, and I think for the 60s, but I'm not sure. And this was back in like the 70s. And so they'd been out there for, I don't know, a couple of months on the wagon. They got paid. They went on into town, and they went to town, went to the bar, had a big old time for a couple of days. And they were headed back to the ranch in old pickup, and I can't remember who was with him, but they said he pulled out all the cash money he had in his pocket, and he still had like $100 left in his pocket, which was a lot more money then than it is now.
Oh yeah.
And he said he rolled down the window and threw it out the window, and he said, "What the hell did you do that for?" And that guy said, "Hell, they're going to pay us again. We don't need no money out there on the wagon." He was just that's all the money he had left to his name. He just threw it out the window. He's like, "Shit, they'll pay us again when we get off the wagon."
Yeah, what good's it gonna do him when he ain't gonna see town for another 6 months? Shit.
Yeah, I ain't gonna spend it out there on the wagon. Shit, I might as well just throw it out the window and get it out of my pocket.
Well, shit, if he had that much more money the next time he went to town, it's liable to kill him. So it's probably better off.
Yeah, he's probably better off.
Yeah, if he would have tried to drink another $100 worth of whiskey, he might be dead. So
yeah, it'd have been bad.
Yeah, I mean, it seems foolish at the time, but in the long run, it might have played out the way it was supposed to. Yeah, I can remember walking out of the. Well, so Montana's a lot like Texas. They you don't really have liquor stores so much, and Nevada kind of the same way, where it just you can buy everything. Montana was you bought beer at the convenience store, and you bought whiskey at the bar. Like you'd buy a bottle of whiskey to go, and and which you can do here too, which is pretty cool. There's a lot of places they don't allow that, but Nevada's pretty wide open. They don't give too much.
That's kind of like New Mexico. New Mexico, you can buy liquor at the convenience store if you want to, but not in Texas.
You used to be able to. I thought there was like there in Stratford, you could buy whiskey at that gas station there in Stratford, right at the intersection of 287 and whatever. Is that 54 there?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. And you may used to be able to, but or they may have had a liquor license there too. I don't know. But in Texas, like at the convenience stores, you can buy beer and wine, but
You
you
can't
can't buy
buy
liquor,
hard
hard
liquor.
liquor. Yeah, you got to go to a liquor store to buy that. But that's
Yeah, see,
not no. That's
Nevada,
in me. I can.
you go to
It's halfway. I'm halfway in between Plains and Tatum, so I can run if I want some, liquor. I can run to 15 miles down the road and get some.
there you go. Yeah, see, Nevada, it's the liquor. You go to the liquor store if you want to find something that's like kind of not common,
Right.
because otherwise you just anywhere that would normally sell beer, you can buy all of it at any time of the day. It's um I don't remember where I was going with that story, but anyhow, liquor laws, it's weird how they go from. Oh, but so I can remember up in Montana, like they told us, like this calves are supposed to be dropping next week, so from here on out, we were on the ranch for calving season. So that
Right.
last weekend, I remember walking out with like a couple bottles of whiskey and like several 30 packs and about 4 rolls of chew because I wasn't coming to town for a little while. And I was like, I look like the
Some big
biggest
stuff.
drunk on earth. Little did I know this has to last me a long time, but yeah, it looked bad walking out. It looked
Yeah,
like I
it
was
always
either.
does. I mean, because I'm the
Yep.
same way. Like when I go grocery shopping, like I go like once a month.
Mm-hmm.
And so like when I'm rolling out of there, I've got like one shopping cart full of food and one shopping cart full of beer. And
Yep.
I'm really not an alcoholic. I'm not coming back to town.
Yeah. This got to last me a while, but it looks bad going out there, and then
It does.
yeah, it's funny.
And
It's funny how that.
there's always one awesome Mexican dude right behind me. It seems like, and he's like, "I'm going with you, Essay." I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah. Somebody's always gonna make a comment,
well,
and
come on,
it's
you ain't gonna like it, but you can come on.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's always the guy there. It's either the guy that's just like, yeah, I'm coming with you, or there's someone just like, oh, do you think you got enough? No, I don't, probably.
No,
uh, but by the
give
time
me your
I'm
phone
coming to
number so you
town
can meet
next,
me
I'll be
halfway
wishing
with
I'd
some
bought
more.
more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh shoot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
by this
And
time
and
next
luckily
month.
we have the convenience of having pickups now. So like if we do have to run back to town for something, even though it is a long way,
Yeah.
it's I mean, and I mean I can go. I mean I've got some little towns around me that are pretty close, but like if I really need something, like it's over an hour to get there. So
Yeah.
it's. I mean, but it is super convenient that we don't have to hitch up a wagon or just saddle a horse and trot that far.
Yeah.
I mean,
When
because
it's a when
those
it's a
old guys,
3 days
they,
ride
they
to wherever and you forgot a bottle of
yeah,
whiskey halfway home, you can't. You're not gonna turn around and go back.
no, no, you're just gonna be in a bad mood for a month.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Your wife's just gonna annoy you a little bit more.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. It's
I mean,
it's
but I love listening to those old timers, and like I love listening to Boots and stuff, like this, and like Boots said, if you're going to be a cowboy, you have to be okay with being miserable. Like it,
yeah.
I love that. I love that so much when I heard him say that because I was like, you know what, there's not a truer statement,
Mm,
because there's a lot of time. I mean, and not that it's, I don't know, like I think that if you love this life and this is what God called you to do. Like, it doesn't matter what the weather does or whatever. Like, you can tolerate it, and you understand that, hey man, it's not always going to be sunshine and rainbows. Like, there's going to be lots of storms and there's going to be
Yep.
lots of miserable days. But you know what? It's kind of like Ray Hunt said one time. I never got to meet Ray, but uh, I was starting a bunch of colts with Buster McClary, and Buster was working for the Sixes when Ray first came down, and me and Buster got to spend a couple of weeks in the bunkhouse together, starting some colts for the Muleshoe Ranch one time. And Buster told me that when Ray first started cowboying, he left home and went and cowboyed, and he said, when he got home, they asked him how it was, and he said, "Man, I got to ride horses and punch cows every day, and they paid me to do it." And that's kind
Yeah.
of the way I always looked at it. It's like, it doesn't matter what the weather's doing or what the circumstances are, as long as I'm horseback and behind a cow, I really don't care, because this is all I want to do.
I know it. It's it's like that old Monty Walsh deal. It's like I can ride from Texas all the way up to Canada and back and get paid to do it.
Yeah.
It's a hell
As
of a
long as there's
life,
one cowboy looking after one cow, cowboy ain't dead.
Yeah. Well, and I think they've been saying since the beginning of cowboying that cowboys were a dying breed because there was always going to be a new way to do something, and there always is.
Oh
But at
yeah.
the end of the day, it always boils down to a guy on a horse with a rope when the shit hits the fan.
Yep.
And
Like
so,
when I was in Wyoming, we had some neighbors that were from Montana, and they leased the ranch that neighbored us, and they lost the lease on it, and they rode four-wheelers. And when it came time to clean it off, they called us and were like, "Hey, can y'all come help us get these cows? Because hell, there's 1,000 little creeks around there that you know they can't get across on them dadgum four-wheelers." And
mm-hmm.
those cows were smart, and they'd get them near the pens, and they'd jump across the creek and be gone. And
Yep.
I had a ton of them over on me, and I kicked them back across, you know, put the gates back up, and then I wound up helping them till they got everything cleaned off, and I wound up cleaning about 90% of it off by myself. And then I loaded all their trucks for them, and that's one thing. We were talking about bull haulers earlier. Like, those guys will tell you how they need to be loaded, and those guys were just like, "Hey, we're going to put this many on you," and those guys looked at me and they were like, "What the hell? Like, no, like, we've got to load these trucks like this so we're not overweight," because they were going, they were going to have to dang sure make sure how they were loaded so they could get to
Yeah.
where they were going,
They're gonna
and
hit a scale somewhere.
yeah. And so, I was telling those guys, I was like, no, like, we've got to see, with these mama cows, I was looking at them, I was like, these mama cows weigh 900,000 pounds, maybe 1,100. These calves, weigh 350, 400. So we were kind of going on that, and we got around there, got everything. And I told those guys, they told me how they wanted to be loaded. And so that's the way I loaded the trucks. And those guys were like, "Man, you just kind of took charge and loaded these things like this was your deal." And I was like, "Well, sometimes you got to do that. I mean, these guys don't know, and there's nothing against them. They're super nice guys, but they just don't know, they've got
They're
some money and
farmers.
some four-wheelers and decided they'd buy some cows, and they're farming cows, So, I was like,
Yep.
I don't mind stepping in and helping somebody, and I wasn't rude about it. I just kind of took charge and told them this is what we need to do. And
Mm.
they were like, "Okay, let's do that." And that's what we did. And we got them all loaded and got them out of there. But God dang, it was something else. It was quite a conundrum for a little bit there.
Oh yeah, like you were saying, those little cricks. I've turned a four wheeler
You
over
know,
in a couple different cricks there in northern Montana, fixing fence, and yeah, like it'd be tough to move cattle through there with a four wheeler.
yeah. I mean, and I mean, hell, right before I came back to Texas from up there, I, I mean, I've crossed enough creeks down here and stuff, that I know not to cross where cows hadn't crossed. I mean, it definitely wasn't my first rodeo up there, and but these cattle have been watered on both sides of this creek, and I the guy I was working for, the neighbor guy, they were riding along there, and they should have been riding the same horse because they weren't doing much. But I was trying to fill in all my hole and both of theirs, and these cows jumped across the creek and was running off, and I went to go head them off because they were not riding their holes, and we went off into that creek. Me and this sorrel son of a bitch did go completely under when we got out there in the middle of that son of a bitch, and it was right before Thanksgiving, so it was dang sure good and cold. And I got up, and then that horse was bogged down. I wound up having to sit there for about 3 hours and hold his head up out of the water until they got there with the tractor, and I was about hypothermic, and so was that cold. Anyway, we finally got back to the house, and I told him after that, I was like, you know what? Fuck this. I'm going back to Texas.
back where the sun shines.
I was just done. I was like, you know what? I ain't doing this shit no more. And that guy and I were really good friends to this day, but we had our differences and we butted heads, and it just wasn't working, and that was just kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. But he's a super good guy, and I love him and his family. I love them all to death. They're good people. It just, me and him just didn't jive there for a little bit. I just figured it was better I leave.
Well, when it's that damn cold all the time, tempers tend to run a little high.
Oh yeah, it makes a huge difference.
Mm-hmm. There's a reason why like people are just friendlier in Texas, even like the big badass sons of bitches that that can fuck you up, no big problem. They're still real friendly. That and it's not that people up in Montana aren't friendly. They're just, there's a difference. I think the cold plays a huge factor there.
It gets that way in the summertime in Texas when it's been 110 for 90 days in a row.
That's true. Yeah, Texas in the summer is a motherfucker. that it's gross. I don't want to live there in the summer.
When I was in college, when I was in college, I worked for Jared Johnson, which he lives about 25 miles west of 27 Roswell, New Mexico. And man, he's one of my best friends. I love him to death, and we still never had a cross word. But that summer was probably I worked for him. That was the summer of 2006, and and the only reason I was going to college because I had a full ride rodeo, and so I was like, why not? I mean, hell, they're going to pay me to come rodeo and rope kids and team rope. I'm all about that.
Hell yeah!
And I worked for him that summer, and that summer of 2006, and they set a record for the longest or the most days in a row over 100 degrees, and it was just freaking miserable. And but the one thing I can say about Jared Johnson, there's a lot of people that could probably say a lot of bad stuff about him. I love him to death, and I think he's probably one of the best cowboys that's ever straddled a horse. But that guy, it don't matter if it's 110, he'll get right out there and sweat right with you. Like he don't give a shit if he's the boss and you're the hired hand. There's no job to, and his twin brother Justin's the same way. Like they will get out there and work with you day in, day out. And you can't outwork them. There's absolutely no way you'd kill yourself if you tried, but they will. But you can work with them. And and there's lots of guys that they're hard to work for. Well, yeah, they're hard to work for because you want to lay your ass up in the house when it gets hot. Like that's the only reason they're hard to work for, so they jump your ass because you're lazy. Like, all you got to do is get out there and work a little. Like, hell, and I didn't, there was some stuff that could have been, there's little shit that you don't want to do. Like, instead of doing that, just catch a bronc and go trot through some cows. Cause like, long as you're doing something, they don't care. And they would just assume they would rather you be trotting through their cows than, and checking waters than sleeping something. So
Yeah.
I just trot around on some colts, and hell, them colts were great by the end of the summer because they had a billion miles on.
Well, hell yeah, and when you catch a trot, you get a little breeze going, and the sun don't.
This is all to do.
Mm. Yeah, there's a lot of a lot of those
like
those guys that
my great uncle he put a lot of that into me.
Hell yeah.
Like, he was was to get a bronc rider as my great uncle, and like my dad's the one that really instilled just the cowboy way of life in me. Like, honor your word, and like, when you say something, your word's your bond. Like that stuff. My dad, and training horses, like, I learned so much from my dad. He is just like, Guy Miller is the trainers that's ever been. And I don't just say that because he's my dad. Like, that guy is he's so knowledgeable about that stuff. And then I got to work for Jeff Williams, who taught me a lot about, starting 2-year-olds and stuff like that, and starting one on a cow and getting one to really watch a cow and cut and, build a stop. And, like, I've been super blessed to work for the people that I've worked for and learn what I've learned in my life, because if it hadn't been for those guys, I would still be playing catch up. They gave me lots of shortcuts and let me learn what I've learned, but like, when I learned from guys like my dad, Jeff Williams, and then I would talk to my great uncle, you could see like the drastic change in horsemanship from the early 1900s to the later 1900s.
Yeah.
Like,
there's a huge change.
It's night and day difference. Oh yeah, instead of like just snub that son bitch up, which, I mean, when VL was starting colts, they weren't colts, they were smooth mouth horses. They were they weren't colts, they weren't starting 2-year-olds. They were starting, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old horses, just depending on when they got them.
Right. And, that's like Boots
Vernon,
has talked about that so many times, where the only time that horse has ever been handled is when they get 4-footed and stretched out when they're cut and branded as a yearling.
Exactly. And then they kick them back out.
And then they run them back in at 4 or 5 years old, and then it's the same process, except instead of cutting them, you're sticking a saddle on them.
That's what Vernon told me, that he got 100 head of horses one time, and he rode from Mesa, where he was living. The guy called him wanting to start some horses for him. He said, okay. And and Vernon had been the bronc peeler for Scarborough's forever when he was a kid. Like, I mean, that kid, he when he was a kid, he could ride a pitching horse. Like, he was handy, and rope. And one of the reasons he got to where he could rope so good was when he worked for Scarborough's. They would go to town once a month and get groceries, and they had a charge account, and they would charge a coil of rope. Back then, it wasn't just old brass rope, and so they would charge a coil of it, and the coil of rope was like a 55-gallon drum full of rope, and they would just tie their own ropes. But they would charge out a coil of rope as red beans, so they didn't have to pay for their ropes. And so they would charge the guy at the general store in Midland would let them charge it out as red beans. So that's how all them guys got to where they could rope so good, because they didn't have to pay for ropes or nothing. They could rope all they wanted to, and on it, the Ford ropes.
Hell yeah!
Charged out as red beans, but anyway, Vernon.
That's funny.
He goes to San Angelo, ride down there, and they drive horses back, and they get to Sterling City, and they split them horses up, and there was like 180 head of horses, and they sent like 80 head over to Midland. These two guys to start them as 2 and 3 year olds, and everything else was 5 to 10 years old. And they went with Vernon. There was about 100 head of them, and he started every single one of them. And just the stuff he talked about on like some of those horses that were like 8 years old and had never been touched, you know, like what you had to do to get them started was just nowadays people think it's ridiculous, you know, and it's like, it's just what you had to do, you know. I mean, like he had one horse that would blow up and run off every time you went to step on him. And so he forefooted him, and he tied his rope to the bottom of the corner post, and he put it around his front feet, and he'd step up on him, and then that sucker would take off, and he just hold his rope up, let it go, and forefoot him. And he said, you know, about the 4th time he did that, he run out there and dug his ass like a wormy dog and come trotting back to me. And he said, from then on, all I did was just, I'd take my catch rope down, throw it against his front legs, and step up on him, and then I'd pull my rope up tight on him. We'd go on about our day, and he was fine.
You know,
he was so afraid to run off. If there was a rope touching his leg, he wouldn't do it.
Yeah, it's like that that Les Buckaroo story. Same thing. There was a horse that he was talking about. They'd forefoot him like 3 or 4 times in a row. They'd run him out there and forefoot him, and you just sit back on that rope, and just about the 4th time of getting his wind knocked out from get his wind knocked out. Well, all right, well, what are we doing? I think I'll listen a little bit now.
There was an old man that I got to know. I was helping the Matador Ranch, and he started working for Matadors before the Coke Corporation had bought him out, which that ranch is for sale now, which is the money to buy it. I love that ranch. It's an amazing ranch and lots of cool history. You know, all the Scottish investors owned it. And they were going somewhere, him and his family, and they got to Matador, and they stopped at the general store there, and he had to go to the bathroom. He went to the outhouse out back, and when he came out, his mom and dad and brothers and sisters were all gone. They left him there, and he was like 8 or 9 years old.
Oh shit! And he got Joe dirted.
Yeah, definitely. Like straight up Joe dirted right there in Matador, Texas. And he said he was sitting on the front porch crying, and the wagon boss for Matadors walked out and was like, "Hey, what's wrong, son?" And he said, "My mom and dad left me. I don't know what I'm going to do." And he goes, "Can you ride a horse?" He said, "Yes, sir." He goes, "I guess you need a job." And he said, "I guess I do." And he goes, "Hop up in the wagon." So he said, I jumped up on that buckboard and went to work for Matadors right then there. And when 19, he told that guy, he said, "I love it here, and this is my home, but I think I want to try it somewhere else." And he said, "All right." So he called Wagner's, or sent that, I guess didn't call him. He sent a telegraph, or whatever you call it, and asked them if they could use somebody on the wagon. And they said, yeah. And he said, "I'm going to send a boy over there." They said, "Send him on. We'll have a string together at the wagon when he gets here." So that's what they did. He said, "You know, when I got the wagon, I didn't have a good string. I had all of everybody's culls, you know, because I was the last guy there."
Yeah.
He said the first day they asked me what horse I wanted to ride, and he said, "I'll take that big black and white paint." And of course, them wag horses, they're known to be rank, you know, because they had to be. They had to be tough. They had to be, you know, with them out here in Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, Nevada, Utah, Idaho. They had to be tough. I mean, they had to be just about, you know, 7/8 super rank, or they wouldn't last all day, or, you know.
Well, and they had to hold their weight too. Like you didn't want to be able to ride those down. Like Boots talks about that. You know, the only time they'd come in off the wagon is when the horses started getting weak. So you wanted something that, you know, you could feed rocks to, and they'd still gain weight.
Yeah. He said he rode this old black and white paint, and he said it didn't blow up first thing in the morning. He said, which I thought was really odd. And he said, so I was like trying to figure out. He said, we just, you know, trotting across there. So I was sitting there trying to figure out where this guy's hole was because I knew he wasn't just some gentle old kid horse. And he said, I just kept thinking, where could his hole be? He's not running off. He's not trying to pitch. Like, where is his hole? And so anyway, they got down there, and he said that we finally got the backside of this pasture. And he said there's this big corner post, and he said it was like a tree trunk that they put in the ground, and so that you couldn't reach around this corner post. He said it didn't have not an H base; it was just one post. And he said you couldn't reach around it with two guys. It was a big old post that they'd sit in the ground and stretch this fence on. And he said, I told him, I said, hold on a minute, I got to take a leak. And they said, all right. So he said, everybody stopped, turned around, and was watching me. And he said, it just dawned on me. And it's like, okay. He said, so I just pulled my rope down. And he said, I had a horn knot. And I sucked it up around that horse's throat latch, and I reached and roped that corner post, and I stepped off, and that black and white paint sunbuck did leave Dodge, headed back to the wagon. And that was his hole, was if you got off of him, he would run off back to the wagon. And so he hits the end of the rope, and it just, flips him straight over backwards like a milk. First thing it hit was his ears. He just started straight over backwards. Just taking a leak and walked back over there and stepped on him and rode him back up the corner post and pulled my rope off. And he said everybody's jaws were on the ground. They're like, he has left so many people out here a foot back and had to walk all the way back to the wagon. Like, how did you know how to do that? You're only 18 years old. He said, man, I've been doing this for a long time. But he said, you know, I rode a lot of them wag horses over the years, and he said, I got a lot of them hot, but I never made one of them bastards tired.
Yeah, that's no joke. That's no joke. But it is amazing when you dump one of them goofy bastards on their head how quick they are to pay attention. You know, there's something about that.
Yeah.
When they get those feet yanked out from underneath them and they just hit the ground, they're just like, oh shit. Okay, what do we do? Where am I missing? What am I missing here?
Wait a minute. There's a new sheriff in town.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. It's wild how that works. But yeah, they
you know, and sometimes it don't work out that good. You know, I mean, Rich Anderson that owns the Millshoe Ranch, he passed away, I believe, last year. And Rich is one of my favorite people. I love him to death. I grew up out there, and he always treated me like I was family. He was good sucker. And my Uncle Vernon would tell me that they were working cows out there one time and Rich was just dating Barbara, which that was Barbara's family's ranch. And
hey, I think your thumb's on your microphone. You're a little muffled.
Oh,
there we are.
Is that
there
better?
We are. Yeah, there we are.
Sorry.
Yeah, no worries.
Rich had a horse that was running off with him all day, and he decided he was going to teach him a lesson. They got back to the house to eat lunch, and he just tied her hard and fast to the saddle horn and roped a corner post there at the pins and stepped off of him and let him go. And when that horse hit the end of it, it jerked the riggings plumb out of his saddle. And Vernon said it rained leather for 30 minutes.
Oh, fuck.
He said the look on Richard's face was priceless because he was like, that's my brand new fucking saddle. So those old hard ways, they didn't always work out like they wanted them to. But
no, there was a lot of there was a lot of trial and error in those old ways.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's funny.
Absolutely.
It's like, being blessed to be born at the time that we were, we can look back on a lot of those things and laugh. But at the time, like, somebody would have destroyed his saddle like that. There's a good chance that poor fucker is going to starve to death.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those deals. It's like you lose your saddle. I mean, that's kind of like not having tires on your damn pickup nowadays.
Yeah, I know it. Yeah,
You
if
can't
you're
do that.
you got a horse and no saddle and you ain't an Indian, you're not gonna fare very well.
No, 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 you're not.
Yeah, it's
Which
it
I mean, I'm sure Rich's family had enough money. I mean, I mean, sure he just bought him a new saddle, but he
yeah.
was sure heartbroken because he had just got that saddle, and it was, I mean, that saddle, Vernon said it was brand new, and it just jerked
Oh
the
yeah.
biggest plum out of it.
Yeah, it's
Which back
oh
then they
man.
rode. I mean, and I guess they do still, uh, from what I know. I never been out there, but like in Montana and Idaho and stuff in that big country y'all got out there, they still ride a lot of thoroughbreds. And of
Yeah,
course, we
yeah,
ride
there's a lot of people that do.
99% cutting or quarter horses down here. I mean, we don't ride a lot of thoroughbreds, but Vernon always said that the only difference between quarter horses and thoroughbreds is thoroughbreds can do it better. And he was a big thoroughbred man, but they would, I mean, it was a different time then. Like they would start out branding, and they would leave down there, between uh Midland and west of Midland is where he was at, between like Midland and Hobbs out toward Jowl and stuff. And they would start there, and they would start branding, and they would make a big circle around all the way from like up where I'm at, back toward Lubbock, and back around to Snyder, and then back home. And when they got back home, they would start weaning. That like they would
Mhm.
brand all year long, and they just follow the wagon, and they just make a huge circle. I mean, that ranch was ginormous,
Oh
and
yeah.
so they had to have horses that would just go and go and go.
Mhm.
And he was big. He loved running horses, and which I raised some running horses myself. I mean, I've got some good brood mares, and I'm super blessed to be at the place I'm at, where it doesn't my boss doesn't care how many horses I have. Like, he feeds so many of my horses for ranch horses, but I have to feed the rest of them, and he don't care how many I have, as long as he doesn't have to feed them. And which,
Yeah.
that's fine with me. But I mean, there's so many things nowadays, like with the barrel horses and rope horses and stuff. Like, there's Ruby Buckle and Pink Buckle, and now the Riata Buckle and Royal Crown and Breeders' Challenge, and all these incentives and stuff. And which, all my colts are, most of them are Pink and Ruby Buckle, and now Riata Buckle, and because they just came out with
No,
that.
what does all that mean?
It's there's a futurity deal, like for barrel horses and breakaway horses, and now, like, the Riata Buckle is team rope horses, but Pink Buckle is a big time futurity for barrel horses and breakaway horses. And then Ruby Buckle is the same people all do it, but Ruby Buckle's uh, like right below Pink Buckle, and then the Riata Buckle is just rope horses. But then, like,
Oh,
there's
okay.
Breeders' Challenge, and that's barrel horses, and Royal Crown is barrel horses and breakaway horses, and all these
Mm.
studs. Like, if they're nominated, like, I don't remember, I think it's like 30,000 a year to nominate one to Pink Buckle or something like that, like 8,000 a year for Riata and Ruby Buckler, and I may be off on that, but I mean, you definitely have to, like, it costs a little money to buy your slot,
Yeah.
and so all these studs with these incentives, if you breed to them, then you can run their horses, their colts, at these, futurities and stuff, and it just makes them worth a little bit more money. And
Oh, okay.
so that's what we've been trying to do. My wife and I, we put together some pretty decent brood mares, and some of them are, horses that she had and I had, and then we put some together after we got married, and we've got some stellar horses, that, and this is going to be our first foal crop this year for all that, and so I'm really looking forward to that. But I just the horse flesh thing is man, it is just such a big part of what we do. I mean,
Mm,
like you've got to have something that has some stamina, that has some calibrability, and they've dang sure, got to have lots of athleticism.
yeah.
And most of these mares, like I've got, uh, probably my favorite mare that I've got is Zan Parbar bred mare that come from North Dakota, and she's big and stout, and like if you need to go rope a bull, you can go rope a bull on her, and I mean it doesn't matter what you hook to her, she's going to bring it with you. You can,
Mm,
and my little boy, he's 7 now. He's been riding her since he was 2, and she was, I guess, no, take it back. He was 3. She was coming 3. She wasn't quite 3 yet when he started riding her, but she'd been a million miles out here, and I was going to move some cows, and that I had a little peppy mare that he rode, and she was older than Methuselah. And so I was like, man, that old mare don't need to go trotting across this sand all the way to the backside and, kicking cattle up so we can brand. Like, God dang it. And I was like, you know what? This yellow mare's been going. Like, surely she'll be all right. And he rode her that day, and he has been riding her nearly every day since. Like, he
hell
just
yeah.
loves that they get together. I mean, they're like Forrest and Jenny, like peas and carrots. Like they just get along,
Like peas and
and
carrots.
like peas and carrots. And but I mean, and that's the thing is like you've got like this. You're never, and I don't think no matter what technology brings, like you're ever going to get away from cow horses. Like I just don't
I don't
think
think so
there's
either.
any way that you can afford to get away from cow horses, because I've seen guys try to do it, and like you said earlier, when shit goes awry, who do they call? The guy that can
Mm-hmm.
come go rope something and drag it in the trailer or whatever they need. Like
Yep.
you've got to have that. Like there's just no way around it. And so I mean that's what I've been. I've my whole livelihood is based around raising good cow horses, and now we've got some running blood bred into those cow horses, and I'm just super tickled to see what that brings, because I think it's going to be amazing with what these colts can do. And I mean, like all these horses, like my wife runs barrels a little bit and trains barrel horses, and I help her with the barrel horses, and she ropes and I rope, and I train rope horses too, and she helps me with my rope horses. And so it's like a huge collaboration between me and her, taking care of the kids and riding the colts and riding the rope horses and the barrel horses. And I mean, it's dangerous. And then taking care of the ranch too. It's a full-time job, but we love it. And I mean, it's just it's fun. It's fun for me to like ride those barrel horses, and that may sound weird, but I don't run barrels, and so I have no expectations for them. Like I just get out there and do it for fun.
Mm,
And it's good on those colts because I'm not asking them for anything. We're just loping circles and going around the barrels or whatever we're doing. And then it's a different story. Like when I get one in there, working them on a cow or roping on them or something like that, then I go to wanting them to do something, expect them to do something, and then when she does it, it's the same thing as with me on the barrels.
mm,
She just kind of they just kind of have get to enjoy it, and there's not much training involved. It's just kind of going through the motions and just that repetition for them to learn and
yeah.
stuff. And so it works really good for us. And I'm super blessed. My wife is so freaking handy. I mean, hell, she used to ride ranch broncs and everything else. I mean, she's way handy. She's a little bit gun shy right now because right after my daughter's 7 months old, and right after my daughter was like a month old, and she's riding a little WR, this Cat Smart filly of ours, and she's super broke, and like I've been using her for everything, and she's like, I'm gonna ride her, and I'm like, she's like, that'll be a good one for you to ride today. Well, I'm riding an outside horse that has a freaking heart attack and flips over on me and is just like thrashing and kicking on the ground, and she runs up there to see if I'm make sure I'm not hung up, and she goes to step off, and that sucker goes thrashing, and that little WR this Cat Smart filly just, I mean, all a man right, and just wheels out from under right as she's stepping down and jerks her foot out from under her,
Oh.
and she breaks her damn arm. And so,
Ah.
So it was the first day back working cattle after the baby, and
Oh
she
man.
breaks her damn arm, and I was like, gosh damn it, like what else could go wrong today? And
Oh
then I've got to take my wife to the hospital, get her arm put back together. Then I've got to call my customer and say, "Hey, your horse had a heart attack while I was riding him, and he is not with us anymore." And that old man, he lives in Colorado. He's the beans. Like this dude is like he's old school as they come, and like he's just
yeah.
cool as flip side of the pillow. And he was like, I said, "Man, Pat, I'm sorry. Old Banjo didn't make it." And he's like, what do you mean didn't make it? I was like, man, I was like, I don't know for a fact, but I mean, I think he had a heart attack because he flipped over with me and like just laid there kicking and then died. And he was like, oh, I'll tell you one thing, Tanner, I've been doing this for a long time. I'm 76 years old. If you can't afford to lose one, you can't afford to own one. And I was like, well, I'm glad that you're not pissed off.
Yeah, no shit.
I'm super sorry that your horse died. But he's like, hell, he would have died in the pens here if you hadn't been, if he'd have been here, he would have died. If he was going to die, he was going to die. Whew. Because I mean, when you're riding horses for people, anything like that, man, that could ruin you,
Oh yeah.
and guys that actually understand and like, hey, I know you didn't do anything. It was just a freak deal. I understand. It just makes you feel so good to have customers like that. But
Oh
it's
yeah, because you get the wrong ones, man. Uh, it could be anything minor that, and you might not even be doing anything wrong. It's something that they don't like, and it
yeah,
just one little thing, and they'll not only will they not pay you, but then they'll drag your name through the mud. And every time you post something on Facebook, they're the first ones to comment on it. And
oh yeah,
oh man, yeah, they're like you can get into some bad deals with customer horses if
oh
you're not
man,
careful.
you really can, and I've been through it. I've had guys that I've got a roan horse out here that's he's 6 years old,
Mm.
and and I can go do anything on him. I can put my little boy on him, and but when he's really really fresh, he will hump up a little bit, and like he may take a little crow hop. But I mean, I'm serious. If you dropped your cigarette lighter on the ground, he would kick it. He is how high he gets off the ground. Like he can't even jump over that. Like he's not a bronc at all, but he thinks he's just burning up the world. He will bawl like a panther and just
Yeah,
take his
just
head,
get
and he will
after it, huh?
just
Well,
get after
act
it,
like he's or sound
one
like
inch
he's
off
getting
the
after it.
ground. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He thinks he's just tearing up the world. And I priced him to a guy. And I've been heading on him, and he's super jam up head horse. I priced him to a guy, and he drove a long way to look at him. Drive 7-8 hours to come look at him, and
Mm-hmm.
he's like, "Will you run a steer on him first?" I'm like, "Shoot, yeah, I'll run a steer on him." I'm like, no problem. Like, I love roping on this sucker. And I don't know what it was. It was cold that morning. It was a little bit drizzly and rainy, cool, and it
Mm.
had been hot, and he felt good. And I run out there, and about the time I get there fixing to rope this cow, he bogs his head. And I mean, like, it's enough that I'm about falling off of him because I'm laughing so hard at what he's trying to do. And I was like, what the heck are you doing? And I just kind of spanked him with my rope, and he quit. And I roped that steer, and steer stopped him, and went and got my rope, and I rode back up there. And I'm just like got tears in my eyes laughing. And that guy said, he ain't for me. If he's going to do something like that, I can't afford one to buck. And I was like, well, if you can't ride that, you probably don't need to own horses. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
no
I
shit.
mean, and then he tried to run my name through the dirt on social media and stuff. And I just called him, and I was like, and of course he didn't answer when I called him. And I was like, dude, if you want to get on my bad side, like, that's a quick way to do it. Like, I didn't, I didn't try to sell you a horse that was a dadgum bronc, and I've got just enough of that old school cowboy in me that if you got a problem with it, I'll whoop your ass and we can go on about it. And he never has said anything else. I seen him at a team roping about a year later. He was just super nice and acted like he didn't know me.
It's funny how that works.
Yeah, I was like, well, And I've been on it too, where I try to help somebody out that's a friend, and I've lost friends over it. Because like I'll tell them, hey, like I had a friend that was in college and had a horse and trying to sell it, get through college, and I was like, okay, I was like, damn nice little mare, like super broke. I knew the guys that started her, I knew the guys that trained her, and she was low level reining horse and won a little bit of money in the NRHA and in the non pro stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
just wasn't going to bring a whole lot of money as a reiner. And she said, "Well, can you make a rope horse out of her?" And I was like, "Absolutely." And so I took her. I doctored a bunch of weak cattle on her and stuff. I mean, branded on her, drug calves to fire on her, did all the stuff on her at the ranch, and I started healing on her. And man, she was just like, she just picked it up so fast. And so I was like, you don't owe me nothing for training, but you tell me how much you want for her, and then everything over that I get, that pays for the training and feed and everything like that. Well, she wanted 8,500 for her, and I priced her at 22,000. Had a guy come to look at her, and she found out somehow. I think my ex-wife told her how much that I was asking for her, and wound up having to go to court over it. Lost the horse, didn't get paid, nothing.
Hmm.
So and it was, from then on, I just make everybody sign a contract for whatever the deal's going to be. And even friends of mine, they're like, why don't I have to sign this contract? And I'm like, man, it just, that way everybody knows the deal and nobody can be upset.
Yep. Yeah, it's hey, it just the way it has to be anymore.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the sad thing about it is, you know guys like you and you shake your hands on the deal and that's the deal. But there's so many people that aren't like that anymore. They won't honor a deal if they think, oh, I can make two more dollars. I like, no, that's not cool. And that's what
Yeah.
that girl told me. She was like, oh, you're not going to make more money on my horse than I am. I'm like, well, if I would have been charging you, like, you would be paying more than that. And what I charge you to train this horse, like, I've had her for a year, and you have
Yeah.
not paid one red cent on. You hadn't bought a pair of shoes, you hadn't bought a tube of wormer, you haven't bought feed, you haven't bought nothing. I've been taking care of her and doing everything. Like, how do you not see that? But that old almighty dollar, man, it can make people change the way they think.
Oh
It
yeah.
sucks,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, that's that the love of money is the root of all evil. It's what
yeah,
it's the good book says. And whether people that's the thing you're into or not, I think there's a lot of truth to that. I don't think money in and of itself is anything bad, but
no, it's just when you go to
when
worshiping it,
that's
then
yeah
you're like 99% of the fucking U.S. government.
yeah 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 yeah.
I mean,
There's
I mean, I was listening to your podcast the other day because I do love me some Burning Daylight, and
well, I appreciate it. I
yeah,
appreciate it.
and like my buddy Bryce North is the one that turned me on to it, and it was about a year ago, and he sent me a Snapchat, and he was like, "Dude," he's like, do you listen to Burning Daylight?" And I'm like, "No, what's Burning Daylight?" And he's like, "It's a podcast." He's like, "Get on Spotify, you can find it." And I was like, "All right." So I've been listening to it ever since, and I'm like, "Dude, I freaking love this thing." And you know what? What the other day when y'all did that about Biden farting on that Duchess, gosh damn, I laughed so freaking hard because I don't listen to a whole lot of news, and so like I get my news from guys like that covers the stupid shit that happens in the news that's so freaking funny. And I was like, when I worked for Jeff Williams, we love to put wind on people, that, that needed it, that were
Oh
smart
yeah.
asses, loudmouths or something like that. I was like, I don't know, that Duchess needed a little bit of wind. Our Prince Charles man needed some wind on him, but I don't know about that. God
Yeah.
dang it.
I just as the red-blooded American that I am, even though I get mistaken as a Mexican a lot of times, and that's fine. But I'm American, by God.
My
And
God.
I just we have by our definition an aversion to monarchy and royal families because we how we were founded is we split away from a monarchy.
Yes, sir.
So anytime somebody can rip ass in front of the British royal family, that's a win for America.
Oh yeah, I think so too. I think
So
it's pretty good stuff.
Joe Biden
I mean,
completely
probably the only
incom.
good thing he's done yet. But
I would say he's completely incompetent at everything. He can't think.
no,
Um, he
but
but he has shit himself in front of the Pope.
yeah,
He has farted in front of the British royal family. Now, like it's got to be the French president, and I don't care what it is, but it's got to be something fart, poop, piss related. If he does that in front of the French president, that's the trifecta. He's the greatest president of all time.
yeah,
I will
yeah.
call it. I will call it there.
He's just got one more to get the Triple Crown.
Uh-huh. I don't care what else. I mean, he could run the economy into the ground, but if he can like projectile shit on the French president,
Oh yeah,
it's over. It's over. Greatest US president of all time.
greatest president. Yeah, George Washington ain't got shit on him.
No. No, luckily he's dead. Otherwise he might. He might.
Oh gosh, damn.
What a fucking clown.
Oh,
But I mean,
that is
like
the
if
understatement
you're
of
gonna
century.
if you're gonna shit yourself in front of somebody, it might as well be the Pope. Go
It
big
might
or
as well
go
be that
home.
liberal ass
Go
Pope.
go big or
I mean,
go home.
go big or go home is right. I'm a big fan of go big or go home. Uh,
Well, I'm glad you enjoy the news commentary. It's a bunch of nonsense, but yeah. So is the actual news. So if
oh,
they, if,
it's
if they can
that's
do it,
fine.
why not me?
Yeah, I mean, hell, at least we can have fun with it.
Mm. It's you got to. I'm gonna make a T-shirt. I keep saying I'm gonna make T-shirts, but they are coming. I promise. We're getting it set up. I'm hoping to have the pandemic survivor T-shirts ready in time for Christmas. So
Yeah,
it'll
buddy.
be
Are you
it'll be.
gonna have some move your ass t-shirts?
I've got a few left, but I got to get some more made. I merchandise sucks so hard. If I could, like, if somebody would just tell me what I have to pay per shirt, to where I don't just put it on my website for me and I don't have to do anything. Like, I'll give you the idea, make the shirt, and like if somebody wants to do that for me, that'd be great. Whatever it costs, as long as I make a little bit of money, I'm fine.
Yeah.
I hate that whole process. But yeah, we'll get some. I got a few move your ass shirts left. We'll get some more made, but we're gonna do pandemic survivor. We do punching cows right in the mouth.
Right in the mouth.
Yep, yep. Um, I
Love it.
want to do a Boots O'Neill shirt, but I'm not sure what yet. I've
You
got
almost have to.
I gotta go back through some of his I gotta go back through all of the stuff that I've got recorded and get one of his quotes and just print that on a T-shirt. Just one of Boots' quotes.
Oh yeah. I think the one is like I don't know. My favorite boots on the Quotes is if you want to be a cowboy, you've got to be comfortable being miserable.
I like that one, and then like you got to be kind of foxy. I like that one. You got
Yeah,
if you're foxy,
Foxy.
yeah. I like
I
that
would.
how he says it.
I have never got to meet that guy, but I would sure love to. Man, he
Oh,
is just
he's a hoot. He's a
he
hoot.
is he is just the. I mean, if you look up cowboy in the dictionary, it just has his picture. I mean, that's just who he is.
Well, like talking to him, he was nice as can be, and that we've got to be kind of buddies now, and but just like meeting him, it was really nice to meet him, and then when we were recording there, it just we're just shooting the shit, but then to like watch him in his watching Boots in his natural habitat when he's just walking around the sixes, and people are there to meet him, and he just like it's what he's kind of a local celebrity, and he
Yeah,
accepts it, but he doesn't get it at all. He's just like I don't I guess people want to meet me, but I don't know why.
I just don't have a clue.
So he's like, all right, it is what it is. I don't understand it, but this is what we do,
Yeah,
and it's just funny to see it. But he's a hoot. It's been a real honor being able to get to know him over the last it's been almost a year now, but uh, it's been pretty cool. That's one
yeah,
of the I'm there's been there was several people that asked me to or requested to have him on, and I'm glad they did because I've got to meet. I really do think he's kind of a historical figure. I think he'll be in history books later on. And
hell, he needs to be. I mean, that guy, like I said, like we talked about earlier, he has been there through the whole change of the way things were and the way things are.
yeah, well, and it's funny as he just keeps on going. He turned 89, and I so like the last couple of weeks I didn't call him. I was busy, and I was traveling on the weekend, and then I was busy last weekend. I didn't call him, but that's outside of when I first started doing the podcast, when those were the only 2 weekends where I hadn't talked to him. But there was when they finished up their fall works there at Guthrie, and they were getting ready to move up north to the Dixon Creek Ranch. I talked to him one weekend, and he just sounded tired. Like I mean, he just sounded wore out.
Yeah,
And he's like, "Well," he's like, they're getting ready to move up to Dixon Creek," and he's like, they're bringing in the chuck wagon cook. He's like, "We're not due a wagon, but they're gonna, it's gonna be about 3 weeks." He's like, I don't know. I say, I think I'm just gonna stay here and gather up the dry cows and get just kind of clean up here. He's like, I'm just kind of tired. And then I called him the next week, and he was sitting at the headquarters there at Dixon Creek, waiting on the other guys to show up with horses. And he's like, "Well, we got a big crew of cowboys ready to do some work, and that's what I like the most. So I figured I might as well come up here." And he's 89. He just turned 89, and he's still at it. And I was like,
I
"Well,
love it.
God damn it, Boots, keep going, keep going."
Hell yeah, hell yeah.
Just every time I talked to him, I was like, "Man, we're not the same person by any means. Like I don't know if I could work for a big ranch for that long. Like I don't think I'm that good of an employee.
Yeah,
I kind of get to wanting to do my own thing a little bit too much, and but just to be able to actually cowboy when you're
yeah,
89 years old, like regardless of whether it's for a big ranch for your own outfit or whatever, but just to be able to go out and saddle your own horse at 89 years old, I was like, God damn, keep at it, Boots. Just keep going.
and,
Like
yeah.
do it until
I've
you
got a couple
can't do
buddies
it.
that work for the Sixes, and like Kai Houston, he's up there at Dixon Creek, and Austin Garvin's there at Guthrie, and man, that's just a legendary place. I've never got to go over there, but and work, but I mean, I've got one of my mares is bred to their Quahati stud, and
Mm-hmm.
super pumped about that colt. Oh, I can't wait for that one to get here.
Hell yeah.
That Quahati he's a beast. That is a hell of a horse. So
Yeah.
I'm super tickled of him. But like I said, I've never got to work there. I've always kind of thought it'd be pretty neat to go over there and work, and seeing guys like Justin Johnson work there for so long, and like Boots worked there forever, and they seem like a really good outfit to work for.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it's pretty cool. I just it's been really one of the cooler things I've ever done in my life has been able to just like become friends with Boots O'Neill. it's just been pretty fucking cool. Yeah, I don't know. They're just
absolutely, man. That guy's. I mean, he's a fucking legend. There is no doubt about it.
Yeah,
that guy is.
Yeah, he's something else.
Yeah,
something else. But it's that 4.6s is like it's an impressive deal when you pull up there. I mean, because the highway runs, it's right through Guthrie, and then on either side of the highway, you've got 4.6s. You got the horse outfit on. I forget which direction, but as
the south side.
I guess, yeah. So you got the horse on the south side. You got the cattle outfit on the north side, and there is nothing but red Fords and red half top trailers and red barns and limestone buildings and red barns and 4.6s everywhere, just everywhere. And yeah, and then just like you walk out there and there's just the nicest horse flesh that you've ever seen as far as the eye can see, and they've all got a 6 branded on their cheek.
Yeah, I mean, it is just nuts. And I played the lottery real hard when that thing came up for sale.
Yeah, right. It's funny is when that
there.
When that shit sold, I'd been doing the Boots episodes for a couple weeks, and I got no less than 10 messages with that saying that the 4.6s is sold. And I was like, well, fellas, I'm getting a consistent 300 downloads per episode. I don't think I can afford the 4.6s yet. I thank you for the vote of confidence, but I'm not there yet.
we're not quite over that hill just yet.
One of these days, that's what I'm shooting for. But we're not quite there yet. We got a little bit to go.
Yeah, just a little ways.
Yeah. Yeah, it's.
And I mean, like hell, I mean, Taylor Sheridan bought that, and I think it's going to be a good deal. I think he'll try to keep it all together and working like it's supposed to, and kind of keep
I think
that.
So.
And that's what I was worried about. I was afraid that some outfit from China was going to buy it, and it was just going to turn into some, bullshit deal that it just broke up and wasn't the same. But I'm pretty sure old Taylor's going to keep it.
I think so. Well, and I know like the big reason that they're well, and I don't know how much I get legally I don't know how much they're supposed to shut down or whatever. But Boots is a company man, has been for a while, so they don't want any publicity. But I think most of that has to do with filming because they made that Yellowstone prequel there, and I think they're still filming something or other.
Yeah,
and so they got to keep everything under wraps. But soon enough, we'll have Boots podcast back on a regular basis. So
that's good.
It's yeah. He's as long as he answers his phone, like and one of these days we'll have some off the record Boots content, but that's a ways down the road.
Oh yeah.
I've got some good conversations with Boots since since we stopped doing podcasts that are one of these days they'll come out.
Yeah, I'm sure those are probably the best ones.
There's I think since we stopped doing the podcast, I think probably the most I've talked to them is maybe 20 minutes at a time, but they're pretty good. They're
Oh, I
just
bet.
yeah, they're still pretty cool. The one today was pretty neat. Um, like, I mean, he got to do a deal with Tom Morehouse this weekend, uh, and he said there was a couple hundred people for that talk, and that's pretty awesome. I hats off to the WRCA for putting that on. That's keeping those guys still
Yeah,
involved in it. That's really
that,
cool.
that guy's character.
Yeah, I haven't met Tom yet. I'd like to talk to him at some point, but
Yeah, and
he's
Bob's good too. Bob Morehouse. I've known Bob a long time, and I know him a lot better than I know Tom. But Tom, he's just real. I mean, it's the cowboy way of life or no way of life to him. I mean, it's
yeah.
and when he took over running Tongue Rivers, I had a couple of buddies that worked for Tongue Rivers, and it's kind of running joke like, did y'all have to turn in your keys to your ranch pickups? Had to ride a horse everywhere and feed cows out of a wagon.
Yep.
Because
Yep, pretty
he's just
much.
all about it, man. I mean, he's kind of like Boots. I mean, if you look up cowboy in the dictionary, that's
Mm,
it. I mean,
yep. Yeah, and they're some of the last of you know, they're kind of our last connection to that old way of life. There's only a handful of those guys around anymore like that, and that's one of the what and it's not it's kind of sad listening to it, but it's also uh it puts shit in perspective. But like Boots talking about some of his old friends that are just he's like they just this guy I cowboyed with him back at Wagner's or wherever, and he's like he's gone now, and he's like there's a lot of those guys he's talked about that are they're just not there anymore. And so like the him and Boots and Tom Morehouse and Boots' brother, and just a lot of those guys, like they're the kind of the last links to that old way of cowboying.
there's guys like Bill Smith and like Jeff Williams over there posts, like those guys. I mean, they're a lot younger. I mean, they're 20, 25 years younger probably than Boots, but they still, like Bill Smith, he's over there at Spur, and I mean, has raised good horses forever,
Mm,
and just super super good ranch horses, and they go on. I mean, the hell, Rich Skelton went to the NFR riding that horse he called Chili Dog, and that was a Bill Smith horse. Like,
mm,
I mean, he rode him forever. I mean, they're super versatile, but they're good ranch horses. And I've talked to some guys that were damn sure cowboys, like James Pendleton over there at Crescent. James Pendleton's I mean, that sucker, he knows cows better than just about anybody around, and super good cowboy. And he's like, man, we had 15,000 head of yearlings turned out, and I was doctoring every day and couldn't ride that Tennessee down. Like, he just had a big motor, and
yeah.
he's like, I just couldn't find the bottom of him, and they're not bronky or wild or anything. They're great horses, but like, you just never find the bottom of them. They can go and go and go. And, and of course, Tennessee is, one of Bill's probably the best stud he's ever had. I mean, Crow was great, and Tennessee was amazing. And Tin Snip, I loved his Tin Snip horses. His Tin's Hawkeye horses are good, and the Hawkeyes are probably the rankest out of them all. But I mean, they won't quit you. I started the very first one he ever had, and that big he was big, black. I mean, he was blacker than the night sky, and just he was a handful to start, but he was my favorite one. You know, and I kept telling Bill, like, how is he? I'm like, man, he's still a handful, but he's going to be great. And we wound up. I finally got him where he was going my way, and we sold him at the Caprock Ranch and sale that they used to have up at Clarendon. And what was that the guy's name that bought him? Kelly Butler bought him and sent him to Kelby Phillips, who is like one of the best trained cow horse trainers there is now. And you know, Kelby's one snaffle bit and everything else. I mean, he's a freaking hand. I mean, if you've watched Down the Fence on Netflix, you've seen him. I mean, Kelby's a good friend of mine, and just
that's a good documentary, by the way.
It really is.
Down the Fence. It's a pretty good one. I liked it.
But Kelby had him, and you know, we topped the sale with him that year, and we sold him for $10,000-$11,000, and then they brought him back to 3-year-old. Kelby showed him, and he won the futurity on him there at that sale, and they turned around and sold him. He was a high seller that year, and then they could show as a 4-year-old at a 4-year-old futurity or derby or whatever. He won that, and then topped the sale again. So, I mean, that horse he was exceptional. I called him Mr. T because one thing that my Uncle Vernon had taught me was if you got one that likes to pitch, you can put a choke rope on them. And I had a set of hobbles that was just some braided rope, and I would tie it in a square knot and just put it around my saddle horn, around his neck and around my saddle horn, where if he bogged his head, it would, you know, cut his wind off and he couldn't pitch as hard. But I guarantee you, I've ridden ranch broncs and I've ridden lots of bronchi sunbucks, and that sucker could 8 or 10 licks just as hard as you please, even with no air. He didn't care. He could do it. And he was super athletic, and he never bucked me off. Never. And there's no. I'm no bronc rider by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, only explanation is the good Lord would just set me back up on him, or he would jump up back underneath me and put me back in the middle of him. But he never bucked me off. And gosh damn, that was a good horse. And I seen a full brother to him a couple of years ago. I was at San Antonio at a team roping, and I thought it was that horse for a second because he was just, I mean, black as he could be. He had an 8 on his jaw, had an S-bar on his hip, and I was like, holy crap. And I stepped around behind him, and he was 2 years younger. When I saw the year brand on the cheek of his butt, and I said, man, I thought this was the horse I started. And I said, but he's not. He's too young. He's a full brother, though. He's got the same air brand, same stud brand. And he goes, where'd this horse come from? I said, from Spur, Texas, from Bill Smith. And he said, you know where I can get any more? Because this is the best one I've ever thrown my leg over. I said, yeah, I'll give you Bill's number. I was like, call Bill. He might have another one. But, you know, I mean, that made me feel good that, you know, people that are, you know, 10, 12 hours away are figuring out that these horses up here that are ranch horses that get broke and rode on ranch make such good ranch horses. And I was listening to Bill the other day, because I listen to a couple different podcasts, especially when I'm feeding cows, because, you know, it's kind of monotonous and just driving around and feeding. And I listened to Chris Dawson and what's his name? Dill Day's broadcast, Full Contact.
Yeah.
And Russell Dilday. And so anyway, I listen to, like, the only 2 podcasts I really listen to is Burn Daylight and Full Contact Cow Horse Down the Fence. And so, like, I switch back and forth as I'm going through there. Y'all listen to one of yours and one of theirs, and, you know, I just kind of, that's how I do my days when I'm feeding cows and just in the pickup and you know, all day. And I was listening to them talk about, you know, how these ropers are finally figuring out that these cow horses and cutters and reiners make such good rope horses, and they're so easy to train because they've got such a good foundation on them. And that's what I mean, growing up with my whole life is my dad always wanted everything super broke, super soft, you know, really ride around, turn around, do all the things before we ever started roping on them.
Right.
And, you know, like that was a big thing when I was a kid. You know, he'd kick me loose on one and he'd be like, just go pull on this son bitch, you know, go do this, go do that. And, you know, go prowl through some cows, go do something. Like, just get him out of the arena and go do something, you know. And my dad's probably one of the best guys in the world at fixing like really problem horses, like whether in the box or in the field or whatever, rope horse wise. And, you know, like Shot Branham, who's a freaking legend and I love to death. Like, he's another one of my heroes and just a super great guy, you know. He's the same way, you know. And he told me one time, he said, he asked me how my dad was. I seen him at Western Heritage down to Abilene one year. He said, how's your dad been doing? I hadn't talked to him. I said, he's good. I said, he finally went up on his prices because I always thought he wasn't charging enough, you know, to fix all these problem rope horses. And he goes, I'll tell you what, it doesn't matter if he charges $10,000 a month, people still send him horses because he's the only one in the world that can fix those problem horses. And for Shot Brown to get something like that, it really meant a lot, you know, in which Dad doesn't ride any outside horses anymore because he's just getting too old to jack with it, and he doesn't have to. So
how old is he?
My dad?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's 63 or 4.
Okay.
And I mean, and he still could. He hurts. I mean, his knees and his shoulders and stuff, not what they used to be because he did ride the rank ones for so long. And
well, you know, and he grew up for the most part before the era of modern medicine too. So
yeah, and
that makes a difference.
Getting him to go to a doctor is like pulling teeth. I mean, he goes to chiropractor religiously. That's the only reason he still gets to do what he can do.
Yeah.
But
can you imagine if he would have had a chiropractor back when he was 25 or 30?
Well, he did.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, my granddad.
Oh.
my mom's dad. My mom's whole family's chiropractors. My mom's dad. And my mom's dad's a chiropractor.
So that might be why he's still doing it today, huh?
Oh yeah, most definitely. My granddad Dave, my Uncle Ron, my Uncle Don, my Aunt Ann, my cousin Aubrey, my sister, like they're all chiropractors.
There you go.
I got a whole
family. I'm a firm believer in the chiropractic medicine.
Yeah, I am too. You know, and like my son is he'll be 8 in January. He's a long 7. And
long 7, yeah.
He's a long 7, and he got adjusted at 24 hours old. And my daughter's the same way, and she's 7 months old, and she's been adjusted 2 or 3 times. And you know, my sister's adjusted her, and if you start those kids out like that, like I mean, I was the same way. I got adjusted when I was a little bitty. I mean, my little brother came out with the umbilical cord around his neck. His face was blue. He couldn't breathe. My granddad adjusted him immediately, and he turned just as pink as he could be immediately. I mean, like a snap. And but we've all been adjusted like that our whole lives, like me and my brother and my sister and my cousins and stuff. And we've never, like, none of us have ever been sick. Like, we've never had like our tonsils taken out. We never had appendix taken out. We've never had anything like no major illnesses whatsoever.
Yeah.
But you know, and the thing that I love about that, in which I do it on horses, like I adjust horses, and it's the same deal as it is on humans. I mean, it's just kind of like it when you're out, it's like a kink in the water hose. Like, you're getting some fluid through there, but it's not what it's supposed to be.
Right.
You know, once you line everything back up and you can get everything going like it needs to go, and the body will heal itself just like God designed it to heal itself. And you know, I mean, and that's one thing. Like, when I have a hard day on these colts, like I love weaning on my 2-year-olds. Like, I just love it because they get to go back and forth, and it's all day long, and they get tired and they start listening, and everything's just like they just get super broke when I'm during fall works. I just love fall works on my colts, you know, because if I can get them through fall works, or once I get them through fall works, it's like they're just in 30 days. I may have 30 days on them, but it feels like I've gotten 90 or 120 days on them, just because they've gotten,
Yeah.
so many long days. But every day when I get in, I check them and adjust them and keep them sound and happy and feeling good. And even though they're tired, they're not hurting anywhere. And
Yeah.
then they don't dread their job. They don't dread going out there. They don't, and like one of my 2-year-olds this year, hell, I was cutting the gate on him by the end of the works. And, he was wanting to watch a cow, and, he's a pack cow and bred horse from up there in the Dakotas. And, I love those horses. They know they know what's going on. They know what a horse needs to be. And he is just, I mean, a cool 2-year-old. He's coming 3, and my wife's already loping him around the barrels, and like, he is just wanting to do anything you ask him to do. Like, he is just super, super cool. And
Hell yeah.
I've got a little own son of hired gun that's he's coming to, but he's just big and stout, real physical made. Like, he's out of a shining spark mare, and he is just, and I was like, you know what? Like, I've done all the groundwork. I might as well just start riding him a little bit. And I've just real light rode him, and like, I really didn't start riding until right after we got done weaning this year. But every year I have cows that jump cattle guards and stuff and come back to the pens looking for their calves, and, tear down gates and stuff like that. I mean, my gates are kind of, and my gates aren't, but my fences are on the honor system, a lot of them, because there's some of them are 100 years old, but and they don't honor them when it comes time to taking their calves away. But, and it was good for him. Like, I'll just go put them back, and, I'll get around some and drive them back home. And, it just does him a lot of good to plow through this sand. And he's already starting to just do things. And I'm like, man, this is just, I love doing this on these colts. Like, it's just so good for them. It's nothing's hard, nothing strenuous. I'm not ramming and jamming on them. It's just getting behind some cows, pushing around there, kicking them back through a gate, shutting the gate, and then trotting back to the house. And it's just so good on him. And I usually don't start him that young, but he's got bone like no other. And he's just big and stout. I mean, his ass is wide as this Dodge pickup I drive. And I mean, he's just 2 years old. Like, I can't even imagine what he's going to be when he gets older.
Hell
But,
yeah.
I just, it is just so good on these colts just to get behind stuff and just make them get around and just do little jobs. You don't have to do a whole bunch on them, but it's like I always said, keeping them quiet is the key to them learning what you're asking them to do. If they're not quiet, they're not going to learn. They're not going to listen to you. You've got to keep them quiet, and they're quiet as a mouse pissing on cotton. If they're not, it pisses me off. And I'm like, you've got to quit. Like, we're just going to go some more miles, and I'm just going to let you travel. Like, I'm not even going to pull on you. I'm not going to ask you to do shit. We're just going to go check these windmills up here on the north side, and you can just get tired if you don't want to listen, and
Yep.
I just let the easy things be easy and the hard things be hard. It is what it is. I mean, and by the time you get back around where you can see the house, everything's going your way, and it's their idea and not yours. And and they're ready to go do something else the next day. And they get to where, like, when you do that, you're not fighting them and jerking and whipping and gouging on them like some people do. I mean, you just let them figure it out on their own and keep them quiet, and then they listen to you and they want to be your buddy and they want to do what you ask them to do. And then it's easy shit. Then it's like taking candy from a kid. I mean, shit, you just go do what you want to do and ask them, and they just do it and go on.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And you know what? I think if you got about 20 minutes left in you.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
All right, perfect. Well, we'll end the regular podcast on that note, because you obviously love your horses and what you got building up. So tell us where we can see all this fine horse flesh and the work that you're doing.
You can find I've got Miller Performance Horses on Facebook, and I can't even remember my Instagram handle. It's on Twitter. It's at Miller Perf Horses, and But Tanner Miller on
Tanner T. Miller on Instagram. There you go.
yeah, there it is. I couldn't remember. I'm super good at this, as you can tell.
That's all right. I luckily you're the last message that I had on Instagram, so you were first on the list. So,
Look up.
But yeah, we'll for everybody else, we're gonna go real in the weeds onto some horse bloodlines and